Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to cover an article I stumbled across that actually just made me sad for this woman. I posted it and a few comments on minds.com a couple of days ago, but there's just so much wrong with this article that I didn't feel I could adequately address it with just a short comment, and I pondered whether or not to do a video on it to address it more fully. The cavalry general told me in no uncertain terms to do it already. Can't disobey the general's orders, so here we are. Let's dive right into this train wreck and the androphobic nitwit who wrote it. I'm done pretending men are safe, even my sons. You see what I mean? Right from the title. Imagine being so wrapped up in your ideological bullshit that you fear your own kids. Quite an appropriate picture, too, for a woman that's evidently afraid of half the population of the planet. I have 2 sons. They are strong and compassionate, the kind of boys other parents are glad to meet when their daughters bring them home for dinner. They are good boys, in the ways good boys are, but they are not safe boys. I'm starting to believe there's no such thing. See how quickly her ideology overcomes her observations of reality? I mean, I don't know her sons, so I have no idea what they're really like, but by her own admission, they're good kids. Now, I suspect her definition of good in this case is highly different from mine, but apparently they're compassionate and people like them, so I can only assume they're well-behaved, polite, and courteous. Yet for this woman, that's not enough. They're boys. They must be somehow evil at their core because feminism. I wrote in the Washington Post last year, during the height of the Brock Turner case, about my sons and rape culture. I didn't think it would be controversial when I wrote it. I was sure most parents grappled with raising sons in the midst of rape culture. The struggle I wrote about was universal, I thought, but I was wrong. My essay went semi-viral, and for the first time my sons encountered my words about them on their friends' phones, their teachers' computers, and even overheard them discussed by strangers on a crowded metro bus. It was one thing to agree to be written about in relative obscurity, and quite another thing to have my words intrude on their daily lives. Okay, here's your first problem. Most parents aren't totally blinded to reality by feminism. They do not believe that we live in a rape culture in America because reality stands in stark contrast to your supposition. Most people can distinguish between what they read and what they observe. If what they observe directly opposes what they've read, then they accept that what they've read is very likely wrong and reject it. For some reason, you feminists seem to operate exactly the opposite. You reject reality in favor of some bullshit you read just because someone with a bullshit degree wrote it. Your second problem is thinking that the Washington Post is somehow relative obscurity. I mean, it's a fucking national newspaper, for fuck's sake. Hard copies may not reach far, current circulation is a shade under 500,000, but the internet? Worldwide reach. Plus, you've written for Time, The Guardian, HuffPo, and Vice. If that's obscurity to you, then pray tell, what exactly is publicity in your mind? One of my sons was hurt by my words, although he's never told me so. You mean he didn't appreciate you telling the entire world that he's dangerous because he's a boy? Color me fucking surprised. He doesn't understand why I lumped him and his brother in my essay. Of course he doesn't. No one else does either. Why you fucking feminists have decided that all men are the same is beyond anyone's understanding except your own. He sees himself as the good one, the one who is sensitive and thoughtful, and who listens instead of reacts. He doesn't understand that even quiet misogyny is misogyny, and that not all sexists sound like Twitter trolls. He is angry at me now, although he won't admit that either, and his anger led him to conservative websites and YouTube channels, places where he can surround himself with righteous indignation against feminists, and tell himself it's ungrateful women like me who are the problem. Sounds to me like he's a normal person who has finally figured out that no matter what the fuck he does, no matter how good he is, no matter how much he tries to please you, it's impossible because you simply can't be pleased. You hate men no matter what they're like, and so he's finally given up trying. Kudos to you for that much at least. Maybe now he can grow up with some common fucking sense in his head. Thanks to your assertion that he's evil, no matter what he does, He has finally learned to stop listening to your pathological bullshit. His future just got a whole lot brighter because people like you are the fucking problem. I teeter frequently between supporting my son and educating him. Is it my job as his mother to ensure that he feels safe emotionally no matter what violence he spews? Is it my job as his mother to steer and educate no matter how much that education challenges his view of himself? I think it's both. But the balance between the two has proven impossible to pinpoint. When I hear his voice become defensive, I back off but question whether I'm doing him any favors by allowing his perception of himself to go unchallenged. When I confront him with his own sexism, I question whether I'm pushing too hard and leaving him without an emotional safe space in his home. Evidently, you don't need to worry about a safe space in his home because he doesn't fucking have one. Your own words tell us he's constantly reminded of how evil and despicable he is because he's a male. And you're not educating him, you're trying to indoctrinate him. There's a difference. You should be teaching him to think for himself. Instead, you're constantly reminding him how he's evil and there's nothing he can do about it. What exactly do you imagine that's going to do to someone? Fill him with confidence that he can do the right thing if he just tries hard enough? Or convince him that what you're saying is complete bullshit and just ignore you? Because it sounds like he's finally arrived at the right conclusion. You're insane. Your ideology is full of shit, and he's better off not listening to you anymore. As a single mother, well, there's a fucking surprise. I sometimes wonder whether the real problem is that my sons have no role models for the type of men I hope they become. But when I look around at the men I know, I'm not sure a male partner will fill that hole. I'm not sure there's a man alive that would tolerate constant accusations of sexism from a lunatic who's afraid of him simply because he exists. Get it through your fucking head here, woman. You are the goddamn problem. Where are these men who are enlightened but not arrogant? Who are feminists without self-congratulation? If my sons need role models, they may have to become their own. Examine what you're asking for here, because what you're saying isn't what you think you're saying. Reading your articles, it becomes obvious what you really want, and it's not at all what you've just said. What you want is a man who will subjugate himself to your every whim and expect nothing in return. A man with no pride. A man with no self-confidence, no self-respect, and no goals of his own. A man who will simply kiss your ass whenever you want him to, then disappear into obscurity until you want him around to give you some more attention. Such men are not easy to find, and as you're finding out with your sons, trying to create those kinds of men isn't quite so easy either. I joined Bumble recently, after a 6+ year break from dating. I'm not overly interested in dating in the first place, but I'm starved for adult conversation, so dating feels like a necessary evil. Ever considered the reason you can't have an adult conversation with someone is because you're a fucking immature nut job and adults don't want to talk to you? Just a thought. Bumble, as I explained to my married friends, is like the feminist Tinder. Women have to initiate contact with men, so at least there's no inbox full of dick pics every day. Jesus Christ. You feminists will never let this fucking myth die, will you? I mean, if you get one, then all of a sudden it's a constant problem that every man does every single day to every single woman on the entire internet. Get a fucking life, bitch. I don't know any man who's ever done it, and I only know one woman who has received any, and it's because she asked for them. So it's obviously nowhere near as bad or as common as you fucking whiners like to imagine it is. But feminist or not, the men are no different from the men anywhere else, and I quickly felt deflated. If the feminist men, the men who proudly declare their progressive politics and their fight for quality, aren't safe, then what man is? No man, I fear. See, here it is again. You sit there calmly asserting that it's not you, it's everyone else. You know what we call that? Fucking insane. Men don't measure up to the idealized fantasy bullshit you've built in your head. Even doormats who call themselves feminists aren't good enough for you because you are the fucking problem, you dumb shit. I know I'm not supposed to cast an entire sex with a single paintbrush, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm a fucking nutcase. Not all men, I'm sure some readers are thinking and preparing to type or tweet. But if it's impossible for a white person to grow up without adopting racist ideas, a faulty fucking premise yields faulty fucking conclusions, nut job. Simply because of the environment in which they live, how can I expect men not to subconsciously absorb at least some degree of sexism? White people aren't safe, and men aren't safe, no matter how much I'd like to assure myself that these things aren't true. I can't even think of anything to say here. How does one even talk to people this far fucking gone? How in the fuck did feminism go from trying to empower women to an ideology built around terrifying them? I mean, look at this woman. She's scared of men. She's scared of white people. She's scared of her own fucking kids, for Christ's sake. How in the fuck is this empowering women? My sons won't rape unconscious women behind a dumpster, and neither will most of the progressive men I know. But what all these men share in common, even my sons, is a relentless questioning and disbelief of the female experience. Just like your relentless questioning and disbelief of the male experience. I do not want to prove my pain, or provide enough evidence to convince anyone that my trauma is merited. Then don't. And don't act fucking surprised when people don't believe you. I'm through wasting my time on people who are more interested in ideas than feelings. And I'm through pretending these people, these men, are safe. And we're through pretending that your fucking feelings are the center of the goddamn universe. That somehow your feelings are rational enough to inform our decisions about society. Fuck your feelings. I'm right because vagina doesn't fucking cut it, lady, and society is waking up to it. I love my sons, and I love some individual men. It pains me to say that I don't feel emotionally safe with them, and perhaps never have with a man, but it needs to be said because far too often we are afraid to say it. Lady, I don't think you know what love is. This is not a reflection of something broken or damaged in me. Oh, of course it isn't. I'm right. The rest of the world is wrong. Totally fucking rational thought there. It is a reflection of systems we build and our boys absorb. Those little boys grow into men who know the value of women, the value that's been ascribed to us by a broken system, and it seeps out from them in a million tiny toxic ways. Oh, fuck off with this dogma. Any rational person with 2 brain cells can see that our society values women far more than men, always has, and very likely always will. I don't know what the balance is between supporting these men and educating them, but I know the toll it takes on me to try. I am too valuable and too worthy to waste my time on men who are not my flesh and blood. And your overinflated ego might be exactly the reason you can't find one. But as my boys grow into men, I wonder whether I've done enough to combat the messages they hear from everyone but me. They are good boys, and maybe that's the best they can be in the system we've created for them. You've done more than enough. You've shown them that feminism is insane, and any woman still clinging to it should be avoided like the fucking plague. As much as this woman pisses me off with her thick-headed nonsense and blind devotion to an ideology that's just plain fucking wrong, I can't help feeling sorry for her. I can't help feeling sorry for anyone this fucked up. She just cannot see that the very ideology she clings to for comfort is the reason she's so fucking scared of everything. And she's so fucking full of herself. I mean, imagine for a moment unironically saying that everyone should just believe you without evidence or reason. How fucking self-righteous do you have to be to actually believe that everyone should just take what you say as the word of God? That sort of ego is just staggering to me. I feel indescribably sad for her sons, too. I grew up with a mother similar to this, so I know what it's like to be told all the time that you're just devil spawn and nothing you do is or ever will be good enough. I survived because I simply stopped giving a shit what my mother thought. When it becomes clear that making someone happy is a futile effort, all you can do is quit trying, and it sounds like these boys are starting to do the same thing. It gives me hope for their future, but I still sympathize with the struggle they will endure until they reach that point. It makes for a miserable childhood. That's it for this time, folks. I'll see you all next time.